Welcome to the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. I'm Kim McLaughlin and I'm your host. I am a psychotherapist, a coach, blogger, and best-selling author. And today we are talking about the time we're in right now. I'm calling it the in-between space, caring for your body, heart, and spirit between Christmas and New Year. Right now, we're in between Christmas and New Year, and it can feel strange and emotional and disorienting. The busyness of all of the holidays of Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas has ended, and the expectations have gone, but what we're left with is this quiet space that's in between. We're going to discuss this in between time as the liminal time, the time in between. We're going to be invited to slow down and tend to our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Rather than rushing into resolutions or productivity, this episode offers permission to pause, reflect, and listen inward. Join us on this episode as we explore what is the liminal in-between time between Christmas and New Year's about, and why do we need to pay attention? See how this time can be reflective in our body, emotions, and spirit. And we're going to have gentle reflection questions to help in this liminal time. This episode is special and it is timely. Let's get started. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. Today we are talking about what I'm calling the in-between space, caring for your body, heart, and spirit between Christmas and New Year. I actually wasn't going to record a podcast this week, but I just felt called because where we are right now is this time between Christmas and New Year's, and it's felt a little different for me, and I'm not sure if it felt different for you. So I thought it would be important to have a conversation about what this time between Christmas and New Year's might mean for you. Generally, what I am doing during this time is I am feverishly writing my goals for the new year. I am making plans. I am talking about what I want to be in the new year. I don't call them resolutions. And I'll have to talk about that in another podcast about why I don't do resolutions. I just don't think they're valuable. There are so many other ways to enter into a new year in a way that feels fresh and enlivening. But that's what we'll talk about another time. What I'm coming to see during this time between Christmas and New Year's is that for me, it is becoming a time to slow down, relax, and get quiet. And that has not been normally what I do. As I just was telling you, what I'm finding is that relaxation, that quiet, that slow down is been something I've been building on all year long. And I've talked about this in other podcasts about having retreats, having more time for quiet. And that has been something I've been embracing. And I just want to tell you, if you're feeling off right now between this time of Christmas and New Year's, you're not alone. We're not the only ones that are feeling that way. And I want to have a little discussion about it today because I think there is a way to move through it in a way that is going to be super effective and really taking you in a whole new path going into the new year. So what I call this time between Halloween and New Year's, I call it the holiday trifecta. And it's a time where there is this push to do things, to be with people, to eat, to experience, to be a part of, to adventure. And I know that there is this time right now where there's a lot of emotions and expectations and desires, and it can feel uncomfortable and it can feel like it's too much. So I want to create a space now between this time of Christmas and New Year's that allows us to be a little different. And I'm going to lean out of that idea of new year, new you. I'm going to lean into the idea of let's start creating space for what we really want to be. As I was thinking about this idea for this podcast, this idea came up of the in-between time is called the liminal space. And it's what the definition is it's a threshold or in between space, place, state. And it is derived from the Latin word limen, meaning threshold, representing transition, ambiguity, and waiting between a past state and a future one. And often it can be unsettling and feeling eerie and just feeling like you don't know what to do. And I want to talk about that. So there are this time between the holidays where we're doing, and now we're moving into this year, but there's this in between space that I think sometimes we think has to be taken up with other things to fill it, to be productive, to have your resolutions, to be ready for the new year. And why I'm saying this is because this is literally what I lean into every year during this time, that I have to have my journal written out. I have to have my reflection on what happened last year. I have to be prepared for next year. I have to know, what are my goals? What are my intentions? What am I going to lean into? Who am I going to be in this next year? And right now, I'm not feeling that I can figure all this out. And I'm thinking of this more of a time of integration. So if you're feeling tired and groggy and emotionally flat, let's move into something different during this in-between time. I'm thinking of three areas we focus on: body, emotions, and spirit. So let's take them one at a time and let's see what we can come up with that might really help you lean into a new way to move through this in-between liminal time, and then see where it takes you as we move into the new year. If this episode touched something in you and you're ready for more support, I would love to help. Visit feedyoursoultherapy.com to schedule a free consultation. You don't have to do this alone. Help and healing are possible. So let's start with the body. I don't know about you, but all the clients I've been talking to and for myself is that there is a need to focus on physical well-being. I know a lot of people are getting sick this time of year. There's a lot of kind of like your body is making you rest. It is making you stand back and stand down because you've been doing so much. And so the body leads the way. The body will tell you what to do. I also find that this time for me is my body feels dysregulated from all of the stimulation, all of the planning, the interactions, all the emotional labor, all the things that needed to get done. And I feel tired. I've also was thinking earlier today that I just feel tired from the year. And I don't know if that's where you're at, but that's certainly where I am at, that I am feeling the physical need for rest. And what I tend to do is as I've just told you, is I lean into doing more and to thinking about what is everything going to be and what am I going to do this week to be productive. And I want to wonder with you is that if this is a time to move inside and to literally be in this dark night. We have just had the winter solstice, which is the darkest time of the year. There's more dark than there's light. And I think it's also a metaphor for us in terms of what we might need for ourselves right now, and to really embrace that idea of the darkness, of the downtime, of that in between time between the dark and the light, and to really move into listening, to being rather than pushing and having to get things done. One of the ways that can work well is to lean into what is your body telling you. And I like the question, what would give me pleasure today? What would give me pleasure today? What would make me feel good? What would make me feel centered? What would make me feel more present within myself? And I think those things, it can look different than I think it does during the other part of the year because it is dark, it is cold, you might not be feeling well, you might be emotionally overloaded. So I like the idea of gentle movement and stretching rather than doing anything intense. I love to lean into yoga. And yesterday I went to my Sunday yoga, and it was really about um, leaning into the pose and being more centered in your body rather than doing anything hot and fast. So, really getting more into that gentle movement. Earlier today, I did some stretching in the shower. I love the hot water on my body just to feel like I can open up my chest and open up my hips and feel like I can be more grounded throughout the day. Also, what I think with our bodies is leaning into the breath, breathing in. I was talking with a client earlier today who's has been feeling sick and not able to breathe. And I was thinking about how valuable that is to be able to be in the breath and to take a deep breath. I even think about walking outside, even though it's cold where I live, and it's obviously colder in other places because I'm in California. But if going outside and taking that deep breath and really feeling into your lungs and filling up with that breath, that air, um, taking walks outside, just being slow and movement. I like at this time of year, I like warmth. So I have my tea here with me, but I also love drinking warm water. It's one way that I like to get into being more hydrated is I like to have warm water during the winter time. It just makes my body feel good. So it's once again, what would give me pleasure? What would give my body pleasure? Leaning into really nourishing foods like a soup is what comes to mind, and things that are warm. Last night I had warm soup for dinner, and I just loved it because it felt so good going in my body and it felt so nurturing. Another thing that can be really good for your body is to go to bed. Go to bed earlier. Let yourself sleep in. Really lean into letting your body relax and just be with what you need right now. Sitting down and reading. What does my body need right now? What would give me pleasure? Your body, I think, is not asking for you to be disciplined and for you to follow all of the schedules and to do the things that you have been doing all year long, but to really ask for curiosity with your body about what does my body need today? What kind of stretching do I need? I put on warm, comfortable clothes that feel good on my skin. That to me is leaning into what my body needs and what can be really pleasurable in my body. So really leaning into that curiosity about what your body needs. I have been wondering about New Year's and what might we want to do, and I'm just not sure yet. And there's no need for us to have to do it in any particular way. What I am going to do is I am once again leaning into yoga. So on New Year's Day, I'm going early to my yoga studio and we do what's called 108 sun salutations. If you've ever done a sun salutation, imagine doing 108 of them back to back. But it's something I did last year and I just loved it because it was to me a way of starting the new year really centered in my body, really centered in my breath, and really centered in something that was really for my body, my emotions, and my spirit. It all had those together. The other thing that my husband and I like to do is we like to go on a New Year's Day hike. And if you've listened to me before on any of my New Year's talks, you know I talk about our New Year's Day hikes. We like to get outside. We like being able on the first day of a new year to really be in nature, be in our breath, and be in beauty. So that's what I plan to do on New Year's Day. And what's nice about doing those kind of really refreshing, kind of physical embodying kind of experiences is it means then that the night before I have to eat a certain way, drink a certain way, have enough rest so I can get up and do these things. And that feels good for me because it means then that I'm setting limits on kind of how much I'm going to be with other people or kind of how much energy I'm going to expend the night before because I really want to be present for that New Year's Day physical experience. And that's how I like to do it. I've done New Year's Day and New Year's Eve, all different kinds. And so this is a nice opportunity for you to wonder what would give me pleasure? What is my right thing to do? And where might I need to set boundaries around other people and other expectations and lean into what is my right thing to do? When we're in this in between time, it really is that offering an opportunity for how might I do this differently? If I was going to do what really gave me pleasure, what would that be? And start imagining that for yourself. So, when we move out of physical, we then can look at our emotional wellness and really make time for what's really showing up for you. This time, this holiday trifecta of October, November, December means there can be a lot of activity. There can be a lot of celebration. There can be a lot of sadness. There can be loneliness. There can be things that show up that don't feel good. Even when you have a positive experience, there still are feelings that show up. So I really encourage you to notice if there's sadness that's showing up with you after you've had all of this time with other people. There's sadness of what happened or what didn't happen, who was there and who wasn't there. Sadness can show up this time of year. Loneliness can also show up where you might have been surrounded with people and still felt very lonely. You might have been not surrounded with people and felt lonely. It's it really shows up in individual ways. It also can mean that you feel relief. I'm glad this is done. I'm glad it's over with. I'm glad I survived the holidays. What is that for you? And it could also be that there are old family dynamics, old family ways of being that are lingering for you in your emotional system, and old memories are coming up. There is room for all of this. And I think it's holding both what felt positive and what didn't feel positive, that we can hold both of those and just honor and discuss and be with the kind of duality of there are things that I liked and things that I didn't like. And we're kind of sold this bill of goods over this holiday time where I think, have been told that we're supposed to feel happy all the time. And when it doesn't feel happy, that can be very upsetting. And I'm just saying that let's be open to these ideas that you can have two what appear to be opposite feelings at the same time. You can be grateful and disappointed. You can love spending time with your family and you can feel exhausted by them. You can enjoy the holidays and you can feel a sense of loss, or you can feel a sense of relief that they're over with. It's all a mixed bag. And I just encourage you to lean into what is showing up for you now. One simple practice that you can try, I always like to have doables in our podcast, is this idea of what am I feeling right now? What am I feeling right now? And where am I noticing in this spot in my body? Where am I noticing this? What is that feeling? Where is it showing up for me in my body? And this isn't to analyze it. This isn't to judge it. It's to notice and to be curious, because that can give us the freedom of moving through those feelings and moving through where it gets stuck in our body and allowing it to release, to really literally notice where you're feeling it in your body, breathe into it, and focus on how you can breathe it out of you. Breathe it out of you. So we talked about the body, we talked about the emotions. Now let's wonder about the spiritual part of this liminal time, this in-between time, because I think it can be very sacred. We just had holiday celebrations that for some had some kind of spiritual component. Depending on what your spiritual tradition is, what you believe, there is this spiritual leaning in that we do during this time of way. And it can feel it can feel good, and sometimes it can feel overwhelming, and just really leaning into what does that spiritual presence mean for you. And actually, now that I think about it, it might not feel religious. It can feel more of how we feel connected to that higher self, that higher spirit. So let's lean into that. And that to me means, how do we start settling into the stillness of that spiritual sensation within ourselves? Lean into that. And what might that mean for you? And it means moving out of having to set intentions. It means out of having to set goals. It means moving out of what are we going to do over this next year? And it means just being in that stillness, and actually, I think also being in that quiet. Because when we once again look at that dark time of the winter solstice, it can be that time of stillness and just moving into ourselves. And this is, I think, a time that we can have a hard time with it, and it can feel uncomfortable because that stillness and that quiet are not what we've been experiencing these last 3 months through this holiday trifecta. We've been leaning into a lot of movement, a lot of people, a lot of things, a lot of requirements. And now I'm saying, let's move back into our inner self and our inner knowing, and just wonder what might be kind of brewing inside of ourselves. And I think for me, it's moving out of this need to have to figure it all out by the end of the year, which I promise you has been my way of being for many, many years. I have to do all my journaling. I have to complete the new year. It has to be done by 11:59 on December the 31st of the year. And this year, I'm not going to be so rigid and having to have it done. I'm going to lean into the quietness and just wonder what that might mean for me. And so here's some kind of gentle reflection questions that you might wonder for yourself. What's ending for me? What am I learning about myself right now? What do I need? What am I going to carry forward? Kind of what do I need in this in between time? I like to, and I have been doing this over these past few days, is I've been lighting candles. I've been sitting in more quiet light, in solitude, in stillness for myself, and just being inside of myself. What I find is that during this in-between time when I get quiet and I get still, I actually have more enlightenment come to me. I have more ideas that come to me. I have this knowing that comes to me kind of in that sweet, silent, still space. So I wonder that for you, about just being in that in between time. What can happen is during this in between time, this liminal time, is we might have people coming at us with expectations, with obligations, with invitations, with the what are you doing tonight? What are you doing for New Year's Eve? Where are you going? What are you going to do? And I've had people ask me that question lately, and I'm not sure what that might mean. Have wondered with my husband what it might look like for us. And I want to move out of having obligations and having to do things, and to really be centered in what would bring me pleasure. What would bring me pleasure? And it's, I don't know what I'm going to do, is kind of what I've been saying. I don't know. I have some ideas. I just don't know. And I just want you to remember that you don't owe anybody any explanations. You don't owe them your energy. You don't owe them having to have it all figured out. And you don't owe that you have to do anything with them. You don't have to do anything with anybody. So you can have rest. You can have these boundaries of the I don't know, or no, I'm not going to do that, or a boundary of I'm going to rest, or a boundary I'm going to slow down, or I'm going to turn inward. And I want you to know that there's these things I've been thinking of is that you're allowed to say no without any explanation. No, I'm not doing that. No. Well, why? I'm just not. I'm just not. And you don't owe anybody explanations. And you also can say, I don't know. That's been mine lately. I'm not sure. And it gives me the space to walk away and then just reflect on what would bring me pleasure. What do I really want to do? And then I can respond from that space rather than this kind of frenetic energy of I have to do something. I have to be occupied. I have to be in movement. So when I say I'm going to respond later, it could be that it's a no, I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to do something else. And that's what I'm leaning into in this in between time. Also, I want to offer this to you because I'm offering it to myself is that you're allowed to protect your nervous system. You're allowed to protect. I'm having a hard time saying this. Isn't that interesting? You're allowed to protect your energy, your nervous system, your emotions. You're allowed to protect your time. This is caring for yourself, and it is not selfish. It is really that idea of self-love. So I want to lean into that, and I want to remember to be kind to myself and to feed my soul. And I want to remind you that you can be kind to yourself, that you can feed your soul. And during this in between time is the perfect time to rest, to be, to wonder, to be curious. And you can do what you'd like to do, and you don't have to do anything that you don't like to do. I hope this was helpful to you. It was really helpful to me to really express what's been going on for me in these last few days. And I appreciate you all. I look forward to the new year. I look forward to us leaning into new plans and new opportunities and new ways of being. And I also am excited to just be in this quiet time. So, this is Kim McLaughlin. I invite you to feed your soul, and I look forward to talking with you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. We love bringing you fresh content to help you feed your soul. We would appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave a comment about our podcast so others can find us. This podcast is not a replacement for mental health counseling. If you are suffering, seek out a qualified mental health provider. You are worth it.